So, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet our next speaker, which is Corrie Block, to share his thoughts about millennial leadership. Now, Dr. Corrie Block is a corporate advisor. He's a member of the UK Institute of Consulting. He has worked with multinationals, family companies, the World Bank, and the Council of Europe, and has spoken around the world on leadership, management, economics, strategy, and motivation. And of course, here today, he's speaking on millennial leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Corrie Block.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Perfect. Hi. Good to see you all. I'm 41 years old, so I'm clearly not millennial. That's a huge problem when you're talking about millennial leadership. But a good client of mine about 6 months ago had a problem. His problem was that he was very frustrated. He was also my age, about 40 years old, Emirati guy, wonderful guy, but he was complaining about his 20-something employees. They're not committed, they're not focused, I don't know what to do with them, and they don't stay for very long. They're here for 18 months, maybe 3 years, and then they're gone. So it got me thinking maybe we should start talking about millennial styles of leadership, because millennials do have their own kind of leadership. And by millennials, we're going to talk about a whole generation of people. And I know we don't like generalizations and we don't like being put into boxes, but please, for the sake of the presentation, please permit me to put you in a box. This is the box. You're either above the age of 34 or below the age of 34, which makes you generally either in Generation Y and X, which is our generations, those above 35. I'm Generation X, by the way, and I know that because I was born in the late 70s. In the late 70s, the divorce rate skyrocketed, and so a lot of us were raised in single-parent homes. And those of us who had both parents at home, very often both of them worked. So we became latchkey kids. Statistically, most of us would get out of school before our parents came home from work, so we would go home alone. We would go home, we would unlock the door, go in, make ourselves a snack, do our own homework, and as a result, as a generation, we became, as Generation X, very autonomous, very independent. We hate authority, we hate people telling us what to do, and so we're very rebellious people, Generation X. Now, we've got our own issues in my generation, but today I want to talk about millennials because a good deal of our SMEs are either being led by millennials or are being empowered by millennials. And millennials are generalized by Forbes magazine as impatient, collaborative, and they've got something to prove. And by impatient, I mean they're a convenience-oriented generation. There is nothing that millennials can't get within a half an hour. And I don't mean just in Dubai. I mean food is pre-prepared in the freezer at the grocery store for you. Pretty much anything you want, you can get very, very quickly, including a certificate. If you want a certificate in something, you can take a 4-hour training program in nearly anything and get a certificate for it. You don't even have to do well. It's incredible. So millennials tend to be very impatient, which is why they're looking for promotions very quickly. You know, they've only been in the company 6 months, 18 months. They're looking for a promotion. My dad worked in the same job for 30 years. That was good for him. Me, I'm looking for something to change maybe 5, 6 years, but millennials, they're very impatient. They want that feed now. And that's because they were raised in that sort of environment where they got what they wanted very quickly. So that bred impatience. But they're very collaborative people. You know, they've been very connected to each other as a result of the information age and connectivity through cell phones and internet. I didn't have the internet and I didn't have a mobile phone when I was growing up. We had computers and video games, but that was my generation. Now, they're growing up with phones and they're connected to each other all the time. And that connectivity breeds collaboration. They really want the opinions of other people. They collaborate on whether or not their lunch is beautiful. It's amazing. But they do have something to prove. And the reason they have something to prove is because everybody that's been meaningful to them in their lives has told them that while they were growing up. You're unique. You're unique and special, and you have something to offer the world. And if you want to be an astronaut or a scientist or an engineer or a plumber or a doctor or a mathematician, you can do that. Whatever it is you want to be in your life. Simon Sinek actually did a great YouTube video on this. Google Simon Sinek's YouTube video. It's absolutely worth watching. It's amazing. He does a great job of this. I think what millennials want is they want impact, they want purpose, and they want to be connected. And this is how we empower our millennial teammates, employees, friends, colleagues. They want Impact, by that I mean they want to contribute to society, something that's meaningful. And by purpose, they want to contribute something that's not only meaningful to society, but is meaningful to them. They have a sense of purpose. And by connectedness, I mean they want to be in close relationship with people that are meaningful to them. And connectedness is a bit of a challenge for millennials. And the reason that it's a bit of a challenge is because of the way that they communicate with each other. 80% of all of our communication is nonverbal. You know that. You've heard this statistic before. This is not a new thing, so I'm not putting it up there. But 80% of everything you've ever said, you've never said. So when we have these interfaces, these personal one-on-one conversations, 80% of everything I'm saying, I'm not saying. I'm saying it with the tone of voice, with the volume that I use, with my hand gestures, my eyes, my eyebrows. These are bits of communication, and that's 80% of the message. But for millennials, almost 50% of their interactions growing up, and especially through adolescence, has been done digitally. And those digital interactions have been more or less in the form of text. SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook, email. All of those interactions are void of 80% of the content. And so you can imagine the kind of toll that might take on a person as they're in their adolescence developing, wondering who they are in society, but not having all of the information by which to figure that out. So that's a very big challenge for millennials, is connectedness, feeling connected. So today I want to give you 8 quick tips for how to manage well with millennial employees and teammates. Number 1, give credit and share blame. Millennials are the first generation of people that have been awarded for doing nothing and just for showing up. When I was growing up at a sports day, if you didn't compete well and win, you didn't get a medal. There was no first, second, third, and then participation. There were no participation medals when I was growing up, but there are participation medals now, and they're amazing. Let me tell you, they feed the soul. You guys, you millennials, you've got it right. I know this because I've done it. I went and raced a race a little while ago. It was a 5K race. It was called Spartan, and at the end of it, a nice lady gave me a medal for 82nd place. It was awesome. I was like, yeah, I got a medal. And it felt so good, I did it again. And then I did it another time. And did you know that these particular medals, they have this little thing, and if you connect them all together, you can make like a big super medal for having just finished the race. So you can get 4 medals for competing in only 3 races and never placing anywhere in the top 3. That is amazing. That's an incredible idea, but that's novel to me. That's normal for millennials. They're used to that. They grew up with that. They get those participation medals. They've been given that. And so when they get out into the real world and they find out you don't get a participation medal for showing up to work, that's disappointing. What? What do you mean? Where's my award? Well, your award is your paycheck. No, that's not it. I need a certificate. So there's that disappointment. So what I do to overcome that, first of all, is share the blame and give away credit as much as you can, especially in public. Because millennials, when they're dealing with each other in public, they spread the wealth. They spread the blame and they spread the credit for things. They're very collaborative that way, so do that. And if you want to give meaningful one-on-one feedback to a millennial, don't do it in public, because that's not meaningful, because everybody gets certificates, everybody gets medals. Do it in private. Do it one-on-one with 100% of that communication and no one else watching. Where there are no images on Instagram and no place to click like. That is meaningful communication for a millennial. Second tip, develop your EQ. Emotional intelligence is kind of passé. It's about 15 years now that it's been sort of mainstream. In case you didn't know, emotional intelligence is a science. It is both a skill and a talent. It is the ability to be aware of and influence your own emotional state at a time, any given time. And it is also the ability to be aware of and influence the emotional state of the people in the room with you. That's emotional intelligence. And let me tell you, millennials are very, very gifted at the first one and not so gifted at the second one. Because they've developed a good deal of their relationships online, they've had this digital barrier between themselves and the person that they're talking to. So when somebody says something mean about them on the internet, they can back off and they can think about it. and they can determine how they feel, and they can choose a reaction to that. So as a result, I find that the majority of millennials are quite self-aware how they feel, maybe more self-aware than we are. But when it comes to social interactions or social situations, I find that millennials sometimes don't get what's going on in the room or don't have a command of what's going on in the room because of that same digital barrier. They've been distanced from the people that they've been talking to, so they're able to send out an emoji. And emojis are fake. That's fake communication. You're not really actually smiling when you write that emoji. Be honest. You don't really laugh out loud. I know I don't. I've been writing it for years, LOL. It's a lie. I don't do it. I don't laugh out loud. So they've got this whole understanding that a good deal of communication is fake. And so what happens is, in a large room, they have a little bit harder time understanding who they are in that room and getting connected with how things are going in the room. And so one thing that we can do, both as older folks like myself and as millennials, is work on our emotional intelligence. And this is a skill. You can learn this. Emotional intelligence is the gateway to spiritual intelligence. And SQ is the new EQ, let me tell you. This is the new frontier in management studies. And I have been researching this for a couple of years. It's a 30-year project. Spirituality in management is an amazing topic. And did you know that the majority of people around the world are becoming more spiritual over time and not less? I didn't know that. I didn't expect that when I found it out. The research shows that over time, atheists, though atheism is growing in number, they're losing market share. People are actually becoming more spiritual. And what that means is their more spirituality is going to influence their job performance more. We have to acknowledge this. It is not a dualism for most millennials. They bring their spirituality to work with them. Their values, who they believe they are as a spiritual person, is important. And if you can tap into their sense of vision and their sense of personal purpose, absolutely, absolutely, that is the best way to connect them to their work. They want to feel that their work is meaningful to the people around them, and it fulfills their sense of purpose for who they are and why they're on the planet. They're special, and their work adds to their specialness. Number 4, collaboration. I've got a picture of a big man desk up here. Any of you have a big man desk? I had a big man desk a couple of years ago. I took a position in a consulting firm, and they gave me this beautiful office with a big window on one side and a big man desk. Secretary came in and said, "How do you like it? Everything fine?" I said, "No, it's not fine. I want you to burn this desk." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Just take it out, burn it, throw it in the warehouse, whatever, garbage this, ditch it. I don't need the big man desk." She says, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't work that way. All of my staff are millennials. They're collaborative. A big man desk is an authoritarian artifact. It creates a wall between you and the person that you're working with. And for millennials, when they come in and they approach that wall, that's very much like the digital wall that they're used to communicating through. So they're going to assume that a good deal of the exchange is going to be fake. They do this subconsciously. So removing the big man desk and putting in something a little bit more collaborative. So in my office, what I did was I told the secretary, "Please just bring me a 1.5 meter wide white glass table with 6 chairs, all the same." And she said, "Well, what about the walls? Do you want art?" I said, "No, just whiteboard. Whiteboard here, whiteboard there, the big window, and a big table with chairs around it." And what happened was, very naturally, I would sit down at the big white table, my staff would come in and sit down with me, and we would just start working. And they were collaborating with me, and I was with them on the projects that we were working with, and when I would leave my office, they would stay there, and they would work on projects together. And I would come in, and they would leave, and then they would come in, and the door was open, and the table was open, and all of the chairs looked the same. And what that did is it reduced the distance between myself and my teammates, and we got a lot more work done that way. Because I got rid of the big man desk, which is a symbol of my generation, and I moved to a collaborative table, which is a symbol of theirs. And I encourage you to do the same. Number 5, diversify your input. I can't tell you how many people make big man decisions. With millennial leaders, the authoritarian decision-making style is considered a weakness. When I was growing up, we had an encyclopedia in our house, and all of the information you ever needed to know about anything ever in the whole world was contained in that set of books. And if you needed a little bit more information than that, there was a library down the street. And the library contained all of the information that anyone ever needed to know about anything, because we didn't have the internet. Now we've got Google. And not only do we have Google, but I love Google, and I Google all the time. I'm a voracious learner. I have 2 masters and 2 doctorate degrees, and you know what all of that education gave me? Is the understanding that I don't really know anything. There is too much information available to me on the planet now. There's so much information that I have totally lost confidence in my ability to sort through enough of it to be confident that I know everything about anything. Well, millennials were raised that way. See, for me, that's an awakening. That's a paradigm shift. But for them, that's the way they were raised, of course. You don't know everything about anything. How could you possibly? There's too much information on the planet. If you have any hope of making a proper decision about anything, you have to diversify your input. You can't do it alone. You have to be with other people. And if you want good quality information in that decision-making process, they have to be people that are different than you, because they're going to sort through more different kinds of information. So I can't tell you the number of times I've walked into a boardroom where there's 8 middle-aged white guys sitting around saying, wow, this is a very well-functioning board. And I say, no, this is not a very well-functioning board. This is a smoothly functioning board, and that's a totally different concept. The reason it's smoothly functioning is because all of you have exactly the same worldview, and so you agree with each other all the time, and so you make fast decisions, but you make poor decisions because you have not diversified your input. And so my tip to you is, as you build your companies, diversify your input based on gender, ethnicity, education, and experience. Make sure that your working teams and your decision-making teams are diversified in those 4 areas. Again, gender, education, experience, and ethnicity. This seems to be normal for millennials, but for Generation X, we had to kind of learn this. Number 6 should be a no-brainer. Sleep, water, and exercise, but it actually is very much a brainer. These are the 3 largest influences on your ability to think. Your quality of thought directly contributes to your ability to make a decision every time you make a decision in your company. And sleep, water, and exercise are the most important factors in that decision-making quality. Millennials know this. So if you're running around bragging about being a workaholic, don't have time to go to the gym, they see that as a sign of weakness, not strength. Workaholism is a weakness. Number 7, liminality. By liminality, I mean that space between spaces. It's a transformational phase. Think of a caterpillar that's turning into a butterfly. That cocoon, that's a liminal phase. The problem with the millennial generation is that they're consistently liminal. They're always in the process of becoming something because they have this sense of purpose, this ethereal sense of purpose that they want to fulfill, but they're not entirely sure what it is. So they're always in the process of becoming something, transforming into something bigger and better than what they are today. And we, as collaborators with them, we can plug their personal vision and mission and values and goals into the collective mission and vision and values of goals of our companies and help them to understand that they are contributing to their personal vision by contributing to a corporate vision. That's how we get the work done. Their being here, whether it's for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, however long we get to have them, we're contributing as a community to their personal vision. And we can steward our exits better. When people leave our company after a couple of years, which they will, when they leave our company, they should leave as ambassadors and future stakeholders of our companies. We can do that. And the last one, it says 7, but I mean 8. 24/7 work week. Now I know I just told you guys that millennials look at workaholism as a sign of weakness. That's not what I mean here. What I mean here is that millennials view the entire week as a work week just as they view their entire work day as a social day. There is never not a time when they're unplugged from Facebook, and there is never not a time when they are not checking their work email. They will check their work email at midnight if it's necessary. They don't mind blurring the lines like that, just like they don't mind checking their WhatsApp during work. So 24/7 work week, and that's it. Those are my 8 tips for you to engage your millennial leaders, your teammates, your coworkers, and your colleagues. I hope it's been valuable to you. Thank you so much for your time.